In the book, The Starch Solution, in the beginning, pages 24 and 25, I think one of the more important books that the McDougalls have come out with, you see something called the Starch Solution or the Starch Challenge, the Eat More Starch Challenge. And I put this in there to help the unconvinced. Ask your friends and relatives to just do one of these things every day. Just one thing. Like add 4 cups of steamed rice a day to your diet, or 4 cups of boiled corn, or 4 mashed potatoes. I'm saying or, not and. Or 3 cups of cooked beans, peas, and lentils, 4 cups of boiled spaghetti noodles, or 12 slices of bread. And guess what will happen? You'll get the same results that these overweight college men got. You'll spontaneously lose the weight. You won't even know you were on a diet. But you have to eat this carbohydrate. High carbohydrate, low fat food. Worldwide, you see this. You see the picture worldwide of populations. We're talking about tens of thousands of years of history. We're talking about geography that extends the entire planet. What you find is people who live on high starch diets are trim and healthy. And that's most people who have lived on planet Earth. 99.99% of the people who ever walked this planet lived on starch-based diets. That's what the science says. The whole hunter-gatherer thing is just complete nonsense. No, people were gatherers, and they gathered corn and rice and beans and potatoes and on and on. The bulk of the calories from all large successful population of people throughout all of verifiable history come from starch. The Native American, I can show you research that 10, 12,000 years ago, they were living on something called 4 Corners potatoes, which is where the 4 states come together in the Southwest. They lived on corn. What were the Aztecs and the Mayans referred to as? The people of the corn. If you go further south to the Andes, you find Incas lived on potatoes, except when they went to battle. Then they switched to quinoa because it was lighter to carry. Africa, millet. Corn later on. Maize later on. Underground storage organs in these populations. How about in the breadbasket of the world? You know the breadbasket of the world is turn on the news tonight. Iran, Iraq, Ukraine, Egypt. That's the breadbasket of the world. Why do they call that the breadbasket of the world? Because that's where people ate flour products, breads. Trim, healthy, hardy people. And then, of course, you go far east and you see the Asian populations. Before 1980, there was virtually no obesity or type 2 diabetes in China. Before 1980, 90% of the diet of the Chinese people was from white rice. There are no fat people. No heart disease. No prostate cancer. No breast cancer. So the science is clear. The science proves that starches, even bread, are satisfying to hunger. Boy, that hunger is not going to let you alone. We've decided that, right? You can either make yourself nauseated and lose your appetite with low-carb diets, or you can take shots and pills that make you so sick you think you got bit by a Gila monster. Or you can eat starch. You know, once you get the concept of starch in your mind, you get control. Everything makes sense. I get the complaint once in a while the McDougall diet caused me to gain weight. Don't work for me. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. I've got to have an answer for these people. Well, one thing is they're coming in calorie deprived to the program. They're coming in having been on the low-carb diets, having lost their 6, 8, 10 pounds of glycogen and water. And when they start eating, they regain their glycogen. They gain weight. Or you have the overshoot phenomena. I mean, many of the people who come to our program have been suffering intermittently through dieting. They've been in pain. They remember the pain of hunger. And when finally food's available, we tell them, the more you eat, the trimmer and healthier you're going to be. Well, we unleash that food on people. Sometimes they overshoot, like they did with Ansel Keys' study of starvation. But that corrects itself very quickly. Not when you gain fat mass, but when your organs get their weight and strength back. Your liver and your muscles and your kidneys, etc. That's when you hit the trim body weight. You may gain weight on the McDougall. Really rare, but you may, a few of you, and that's why. Don't fret. It's just a matter, folks, of something you can just open your eyes and see, huh? Can't you? You see what happened to various populations of people who were once praised as trim people, particularly the Asians, or the blacks, or the people in India, or even the Middle East. Compare those to Americans or Europeans or people from Australia or New Zealand. So if we're going to fix the problem, plain and simple, what we do is we change back to eating patterns of people who are trim and healthy. Well, that seems like a simple thing to understand, doesn't it? If you want to be one, you do one. You got to find one. And the Asian populations of high starch diets are the people you want to find. So you have the overshoot phenomena, and you have the problem of being glycogen depressed and regaining some extra weight when you go back to the program. That's why they write books that say 80 to 95% of the dieters regain their weight. Well, they do, but probably permanently when they follow other programs, but not on a starch-based diet. All right, so what do you do? What do you do if you find yourself gaining weight? Well, be patient. Be patient. You'll lose the weight if you need to. Thin people won't. But you got to think about things when you follow the diet. First of all, you got to think about, are you really following the diet? It's maybe because we didn't teach it to you correctly enough, or maybe you weren't listening correctly enough. But you're not following the diet. That's the problem. I'll pretty much guarantee you. You're eating out. You think the McDougall diet is a diet of nuts and seeds and avocados. It's not, unless you want to gain weight. Alcohol is a big one. A lot of calories, a lot of inhibitions taken care of there. Yeah, those are the things you want to start thinking about. We've developed a couple of programs to make weight loss more efficient. And for those of you who want to hurry things up, or you need a little extra help, a different way of thinking about things. One is we have the Maximum Weight Loss Program. Maximum Weight Loss Program takes away flour products. Even though bread told you lose weight, we don't encourage bread, bagels, and pastas. Maybe pasta, because it's kind of rehydrated with water, is probably okay. But certainly not bread on the Maximum Weight Loss Program. No nuts, seeds, and avocados, of course. And you increase the amount of non-starch green and yellow vegetables. Okay, when you look at your plate, and really all you have to do is look at your plate. You don't need a dietetic handbook. You don't need a dietitian to go over it with you. Just look at your plate. You should see that 90% of the food on your plate is starch. Oh, that's certainly by calories, but even by visual, you ought to at least see 70% of the plate is covered by starch. Let's just say 90%. At least 10% is green and yellow vegetables, non-starchy, like celery and kale and broccoli and cauliflower. Those nutrient-dense foods, the ones that seem to never get you satisfied, that leave your stomach growling. Those foods, nutrient-dense foods. Don't eat starches. Some of these people say don't eat starches. Yeah, well, you're never going to get permanent control if you don't eat starches. So we do that, encourage a little exercise, and cut the fruits to maybe one or none a day. Fruits are easy to take in calories. I mean, you love them, and they're so readily available. Good grief. Of course, don't eat dried fruits. So that's the Maximum Weight Loss Program. That's discussed to some extent. The Maximum Weight Loss Program also extends to one other concept, and that is monotony. Monotony. When people are introduced to new items, new dishes, they eat more food, as opposed to having the same old thing over and over again. So we developed something called Mary's Mini. Mary's Mini diet. It's a diet. You're not supposed to be on it forever, but you can be. Mary's Mini. What it is, it's a starch you pick. You stay with the same starch. And you pick a couple of non-starchy green and yellow vegetables. You eat this over and over and over and over again. You will lose weight faster. And, you know, it's not such a bad idea. I mean, think about it for a minute. Those populations we just talked about, you know, the people in Central America, South America, or in times of past, the American Indians, the Aztecs, the Mayans. I mean, think about it. Think about the Asians. Their diets are pretty much single source starches. You know, potatoes from South America, corn from Central America, rice from Asia. They have rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, the statement for good morning in China is, have you had your rice today? That's how they greet each other. Monotony is okay. In fact, we encourage it, monotony. But we've got over 4,000 recipes published, so you can have a different recipe every day. One of the problems that we have is people lose too much weight. Now, I know you think not, but it does happen on occasion, more than occasion. And so what I use is I use the Kepner weight chart. This is from the rice diet. This is what Dr. Walter Kepner said you should weigh based on your height, fully dressed. And I put these in to reassure you that you're not losing too much weight. Okay? It's to make you realize that, you know, what you may consider normal is based on a population of overweight people. That's who you're being compared with, not starch eaters. Anyway, if you take a look at the various heights and weights there, you can see where you fit in. And people who are sick, people who have diabetes and heart disease and so on, they need to be weighed even less, 10 to 15% fewer pounds. Yeah. Anyway, this chart is mainly put there to reassure you. You're okay. So you are a starch eater, starchivore, starchitarian. Until you understand this, you will be out of control. Once you get this concept in your life, everything becomes easy. The truth is easy. It's easy to understand. And the truth don't change, folks. People have been eating starch-based diets for a long time. Anyway, if we could be of some help to you, we have a telemedicine program, offer excellent medical care all the way through the program, the entire 12 days. We offer support. We have support specialists that get up in the morning with you, ask you what your blood sugar is, what your blood pressure, what your cholesterol might be, how you're feeling for the day, what are you going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, how are you going to deal with your friends when you go out to dinner, you know, how are you going to put up with this complaining family member, et cetera. Support specialists spend all day with you. And we have an excellent education staff. We have Doug Lyle and Jeff Novick, and Heather McDougall, and Chef AJ, and good grief, we just have a whole bunch of talented people you already love. Jack Dixon for exercise. All done in the comfort of your home. Thank goodness for the internet. Anyway, you get in contact with us very easily. Go to our website, drmcdougall.com, or give us a call. We'll see how you fit into the program. We offer a little sample of the program too. Our medical director will see you, not start treating you, but we'll see you. You'll be charged, but that charge goes to the payment of the program if you decide to take it. So our medical director will sit down with you today, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe Monday. So very shortly. You don't have to wait long, and get everything worked out in terms of your medications, and at least get started, what you need to do, think about, eat, et cetera. And this may be a couple of months from your program, or a month anyways. But at least you get started when you have made the decision, and that's the best time. You know. All right, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Dr. McDougall. That was a great presentation. So thank you for sharing all that information. So we got about 14 or so minutes left, so we'll do a brief Q&A. For any audience members, if you have a question for Dr. McDougall, feel free to raise your hand in Zoom. The instructions are in chat. So you talked about something that was actually, and real quickly, so you showed everybody how to get in contact with you. If you want to get your books, they're also available on our bookstore. They're purchased through Amazon, and the Real Truth About Health gets a little, bit to help support what we do here. So just let people know.
Good.
You spoke about Ozempic, quite a
Yeah.
bit, and it's obviously quite popular. I personally know a few people who, all of a sudden they've lost weight. You've never seen them at that weight before, and you're like, wow, you look great, and they're proud. It's not one of those things that they hide. They're like, oh my God, I'm on Ozempic. But what are and you mentioned some of the downsides. What are the dangerous symptoms for it? Because I'm hearing things about, paralysis of the stomach and that type of thing. What are things that might
Well,
come down the pike?
let's talk about the slow gastric emptying. That's one of the sales pitches. That's the real doctors. That's the way they describe the benefits. Is the slow gastric emptying. Well, what that means is the food after you eat it stays in your stomach and it putrefies. And so one of the common complaints from people on these drugs is they have bad breath, horrible, stinking, lousy, rotten breath. Yeah, oh, there you're going to get that from stagnant food. And then what happens is the food you slow the motility in the small intestine and large intestine, and you can develop an ileus, which is where the intestine completely shuts down. I have one contact where the husband was telling me his wife was in the hospital, almost died from an ileus from this drug. So, there's the problem. There are some very serious problems. There's some association with some thyroid disease, and I listed a whole bunch of them. Just a few people suffer from these particular problems. So I think the main thing is you just have to live sick all the time. You plan on it. You are going to suffer nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramps, constipation, all kinds of distress from derivatives of a Gila monster bite.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And you mentioned that it was originally meant for people with type 2 diabetes and more severe symptoms. Has the population that is now using it for moderate weight loss, has that ever been studied in any large scale study?
Well, there are lots of papers coming out on weight loss, and they showed what I shared with you on the chart. They showed that the control group loses a couple of percent because they're told to cut their calories back by 500 calories and to get some exercise. So the control group, the ones not getting the Ozempic, they lose 3, 4, 5 pounds. Okay, 2% of their body weight. Whereas the people on the Ozempic, I showed you how they have a nice percentage of weight loss as they lose their appetite, as they become nauseated, as they vomit. And that continues till they've lost maybe 12% of their body weight or 14%. Used to be 14% was what they would brag about, but now they're up to some drugs like Wegovy that may result in a weight loss of 18, 20% of their body weight. But the thing you need to know is this all stops at 68 weeks. At 68 weeks, which is like a year and 3 months, you stop losing weight because the body says, hey, you keep this up, you're going to die. And so we at least have to produce enough appetite for you to eat something. And so you've lost 38 pounds on average. That's it, 38 pounds on average. And now you can't lose any more weight, even when you take the drugs. Only when you take the drugs. You still take the drugs. But if you stop the drugs, you'll regain the weight. That's one of the things that pretty much everybody agrees on. So, as far as people dropping dead from it, fortunately, it doesn't happen too often. They spend a couple of years sick and draining their bank account. But when you can have so much more for nothing, just eat potatoes.
Do the side
I think pardon me?
No, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I really have a dilemma in my life is, I see these people out there overweight, usually, because most of them just don't bother being hungry. It hurts too bad. And most of them can't stand nausea from low carb diets and the constipation. And most of them can't afford these shots. So they're overweight, and I walk by them and I'll meet them and I'll talk to them. I'll think about it. And I'll say, well, if you just understood, you could have the same amount of weight loss in a year. We get about 23 pounds. They get 25, or a couple pounds difference. Same amount of weight loss without any of the side effects or cost. Cost nothing. Kind to the planet. Good to animals. You don't lose your sex drive. You don't lose your muscle mass and bones. You also lose bone on these drugs. I listed like 2 pages of stuff, and all the research is very clear, very consistent. You're not going to find any disagreement on what I shared with you in terms of results. So if somebody sat you down with that 2 sheets of paper that I handed out to you, and you went point by point through it, and you said, well, Aunt Margie, what do you think? Don't you think you ought to give this McDougall thing a try for a couple days, a couple weeks? We have people who, well, me as an example, have been eating this way for half a century. So it's not because we're consciously suffering and working at it. It's because these are the foods we love. Now, where I mentioned, I get the Chinese restaurant syndrome when I used to eat the animal food diet. When I went to a Chinese restaurant, now it's just the opposite. It's been a long time since I've had it, but if I have anything off the diet in terms of animal foods, I don't notice the satisfaction, and shouldn't, based upon the research I showed you. Carbohydrate satisfies the hunger drive, period. Protein does a little bit. Fat does nothing. This is why people can gain so much fat. You see, there's no feedback. There's a forgot the man's name, but anyway, one of the researchers did experiments where he showed there's a feedback, like a thermostat in a warm room. When you eat fat, the body doesn't register that you've eaten it. So it keeps gaining and gaining and gaining and gaining. And we see people that are 600 pounds overweight. I've seen some evening news stories where they had to come in with a forklift and pick people out of a bed. They weigh, because there's no limit as to how much fat you can stuff in there, because there's no feedback. But the body feeds back with carbohydrate. Anyway.
So
it may take a little study for you, but if you just stop and think about it, all large successful populations of people throughout all of verifiable history, including half the people of the world today, live on starch-based diets. Get with it. Get over the suffering.
Now, do all of the side effects go away when you stop the medication, or is there a chance that some of them may persist afterwards?
I can't think of anything offhand permanent, except you gain fat back.
Okay.
No, I mean, there are other minor conditions. I listed them on the slides. I haven't taken the trouble to memorize them. Thyroid conditions, and I don't want to mention them because I can't remember in detail. They're about 10 slides back. So hopefully you'll watch this presentation more than once.
Definitely will. So we had a speaker on earlier today, and as you know, we invite all different perspectives here. Generally, people who are plant positive, but the speaker was talking about 12 items that you need to remove from your diet, and one of them he listed, and not to get you triggered here, but he said potato skins. Is there anything in potato skins? Is there any kind of potato skin that that has anything in it that you don't want to consume?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But potato skins aren't going to be any healthier for you or any unhealthier than the potato meal, than the white potato. Yeah, what will hurt you is something called solanine, which is a poison that develops when potatoes rot. They develop a green discoloration under the skin, and this solanine causes a little nausea, a little fatigue. It never kills anybody, but spoiled potatoes have a green discoloration that occurs. So eat fresh potatoes. No, there's nothing wrong with potato skins. You don't have to eat them. There's where I thought you were going to ask is, do you have to eat the skins to get all the vitamins and nutrients? The answer is no. It's in the white meat or the orange meat or whatever you're eating.
And on your diet, what is the preferred way of cooking potatoes, or it might be easier to say, what are the ways not to cook potatoes? Obviously, the most common way that people get potatoes in their diet is fried potatoes through French fries. I assume that that's not what you're talking about. So what are the ways, the cooking methods that you recommend?
Well, of course, you're not going to add cheese to your potatoes. Well, that's where the potato got the bad reputation. Just the baked potato got a bad reputation because of the company it keeps. It's the bacon, the sour cream, the butter, etc. If you're going to add these things to it, you're going to change the benefits of your meal. The potato will still be there. It's still fighting for you, but it doesn't have much of a chance against bacon and cheese and sour cream. It just doesn't. So, yeah, I guess I could extend this shortly by telling you that I can share with you. You can find them on my website. 2 experiments where they raised people on potatoes alone. One instance was 6 months, a man and a woman, and another was for 1.5 years. Perfect health. Had no desire to get off the potatoes. They were happy eating just potatoes. So the name of the researcher who did the one on the couple is Kahn. Look up Kahn and All Potato Diet. It was published in 1928. You'll find it. It's available free on the internet.
Great.
KON.
I'm sure many of our participants will be checking that out. So I want to we've got 2 minutes left. I'm just going to throw it out to the audience for a quick question. Janet M., please state where you're from and ask your question.
Hi, Dr. McDougall. I'm from Maryland, and I just wanted to thank you so much for all the wonderful work you've done over the years. I've followed some of your work and really appreciate you and all your great work. My question is, in the slide about the maximum weight loss, you had that one can eat 8 to 14 times a day. So I was just wondering if you could expand on that. So does that mean eating every hour, every 2 hours? And does that speed up weight? Okay.
You choose. It's based on experiments where they compare gorgers with nibblers and grazers. A gorger will eat once a day or twice a day or 3 times a day, whereas a nibbler or grazer will eat 14 times a day. You can pick whatever you want. What happens is when you gorge, there are times between meals which your body has to resort to food storage because you're not eating. So all the enzymes, et cetera, that go to putting fat into your fat cells and making whatever conversion they have to make, all that takes place during that period of not eating. If you're going to gorge once a day, twice a day, you're going to eat, et cetera. When you nibble, you never have to resort to the storage metabolism. You're eating all the time. You've always got a carbohydrate with you. The other thing has to do with insulin. If you measure the area under the curve with gorgers versus nibblers, as far as the insulin produced, you produce much less insulin when you nibble or graze. Insulin drives fat into fat cells. So you choose what you want. It's just, I'm trying to give an example from 1 or 2 meals a day to 14 to 20 a day. It doesn't matter. You pick. It's helpful. You don't have to be hungry, just eat. Or I would encourage, when you're hungry, eat. There's nothing wrong with you. To take the attitude as a doctor when they meet you that you're a genetic defect or a psychological disaster, how much help can they give you? They've already condemned you to it being your fault. When I look at you, I look at a thin, healthy person just following the wrong rules. And we'll bring that health and the good looks out in a very short period of time. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. So we're out of time now. For our guests, Dr. McDougall will be on our second panel of the evening at 8:15. So if you have any questions, you can join us at that time. So thank you so much for all the information. I look forward to talking with you in 1 hour and 15 minutes. If we could unmute the audience so they can share their appreciation for Dr. McDougall.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.